Greetings YouTube and welcome back to Transport Fever 2. We'll begin right into the action. First I wanted to shorten some of the main train station in Interlaken, because I just thought 6 tracks of 440 meters was just a bit excessive, so I shortened 3 of them. Next we are going to expand off upwards where we already built, making everything a little bit green, then deleting the trees and the whole city itself, then a bit of terraforming just to make the gradient a bit easier to climb, and of course always, that's what I do, building the train station first. And this one I wanted to make a bit asymmetrical, so that the left hand track is a bit more to the left, and the right track is more to the right, so that the upper track can make a right turn sooner than the left one. Right now I'm trying to build the exit from the shared track on the street, off of the streets. And I try to keep the gradients a bit on the lower side, nothing too crazy. At most it's 40 parts per mil. So most I try to do, keep it at 4%. And right now I'm a bit tinkering on how I want to lay out the tracks, especially on such a tight space and such a steep gradient, on how I want to do first of all the top speeds and the radii, like the S-bends. It's a bit finicky, but at the end I have something that I like. Then next I will connect everything with streets, of course making sure that the street has sufficient top speed, and level the sidewalks. Now a bit more of terraforming, removing streets that were already there, because I rarely use the dirt roads. Switching between station tracks and normal tracks, just to regulate the top speeds a bit better. The station tracks have much more restricted top speeds, especially in curves. I don't like meter gauge trains just blast through everything. Well, you know, I do like to keep it at least a little bit realistic. Of course, I'm not a real civil engineer or something, so I'm not really that knowledgeable about real track layouts or gradients, but I try to keep it real, like how it seems to be real in my head. Now I'm ensuring a good road connection along the tracks to the other towns that are nearby along the tracks, which looks really nice. And of course, a big roundabout for the city entrance. More street removal, more terraforming. And now again back to laying some tracks. Now I'm trying to go along the mountainside. Keep it at 4%. And around 35 kilometers per hour. Something that is a relatively good top speed for climbing mountains. And of course there's a nice bridge mod that I often like to use because there's Swiss bridges on that the RAB uses. Of course, a bit of terraforming to avoid any sharp angles in the flooring, in the dirt. Don't want that. Doesn't look nice. Keep everything tidy. Now back to station again. Now doing the track to the other city. As you can see, after this station, tracks fork. One to the left, one to the right. And as you can see, I'm always a bit tinkering where to go, what gradients, what radii for the curves. Everything should just look nice. I rarely change track layouts afterwards because I'm also just satisfied with what I've done. Because of course I have to add more tracks or do something different radically. So really nice snake bends. At a later point I will add some trees so that nothing is that the track layout doesn't look that barren. Now I think here's a nice place to place a little shed, a little depot where I can buy my trains and let them go on the tracks. The bends here are rather tight. We are now in the 20s. When it's concerning to the top speeds, but as it is just for entering and exiting the depot, that is quite fine with me. Now retaining walls. The slope of the mountain is quite steep, so I like to put on some retaining walls. Give it a bit more realistic. These building blocks gave me quite the headache. Excuse me. Because of the terrain alignment, I had to tinker around a bit until I found like a good setting, which allows the ground to snap onto the upper part of the blocks, but without any bulges on the other side of the track, which was very annoying. Now back to the station and building the roads. And now starting the city layout. The connecting streets have a top speed of 90 kilometers per hour, but I try to keep the top speeds of the streets inside towns a bit lower, mostly 30 kilometers per hour to like 50 maybe. With the 90 kilometers per hour streets, I try to make an outline, just connect the towns. Now this is the 30 kilometer per hour streets that I like to use. I like to pre-build a grid where I then plop down the housing. Now back to Interlaken. More streets connecting to the roundabout. And you know, I also don't really adhere to realism. I just do what looks fine, I guess. Random grid lines with not too much space in between them. Following the tracks, following the shoreline. Always keeping in mind where the other towns are and where I might do some connections. Some crossroads. Crossing the tracks. Let's get to the other side. Some foresting. Planting trees so it doesn't look barren. Deleting some trees around the track. And now we'll get to finally colonizing our cities. This is a really cool mod that allows me to build with the houses that come with vanilla Transport Fever 2. And I can plop them down, have decorations on or not. I can configure how many residents there are, even if they are commercially resident or industrial workplaces, to keep a nice flow of Sims going. Of course, Sims travel between the homes, workplaces, and shopping facilities. Near the station, I like to have bigger housing, hotels, restaurants, workplaces, etc. And around the city center, like the town center, I have regular houses, more like on the middle side, and like on the outskirts, I like to do the smaller houses. Then I will add streets, just go along the houses, like in a natural way. By the way, this is time-lapsed 1000%, so 10 times faster, because this can get repeating and can get quite a bit boring. But it is nice to see the progress of the town and how it just grows, and in the end how it looks a bit more lively. The reason why I build the cities on my own is automatic city builder that is built into Transport Fever 2 is nice enough, but the cities keep on growing without any restrictions. And I do not want it for there to be like these ridiculously high hotels and office towers inside of my towns, especially on like a more mountainy map here. So I try to keep a low profile, and that way I can regulate the growth and the size of my cities just as I want it, and keep it at a size that I like without any annoying Sims building any housing. Now, to keep my tracks or my Sims secure, I will build fences around the tracks. Obviously they are important, especially on the tracks that are near the housing, just to keep Sims off. I mean, of course, they will never walk onto the track, so there will never be an accident because this is just a game. But aesthetically, I like that. Next up, signaling. This one I copied more from real life. That there are always signals next to the, like in front of the station exits. But as you can see, I'm plopping down waypoints because I don't like trains to depart from the station and then just stopping at the signal again. This does look a bit silly. That's why I just use waypoints next to the stations, but elsewhere I just use regular signals. And now something I really like aesthetically are signal bridges. And of course I'm doing left-hand side traffic. So those signals will be real signals where trains actually stop, and the rest are waypoints. And underneath I have block signals, which are really nice because they actually depict any restrictions regarding top speed. Now I'm building my first route between stations that already exist, and I'm deciding on a Capricorn to drive on it. I think it does look really nice. Nothing too big for such a small line. And just run for now. Now building just a little bit of housing on this station, and letting the train drive out onto the station. Now I'm building houses along the tracks that run on the street, just so when we are in a cab view it doesn't look barren again. Some people magnets, so some people actually go onto the station, not too much of course. And that is going to be the section where I am going to follow train for a bit, just to see how it looks for now. I just love the scenery, love this map. Oh, some lag here and there. It is a bit empty. I will add more Sims and more cars, but that is in the future. And the catenaries we just drove through, I will remove them later. Placing myself. And crash. But hey, not everything can be perfect. But I just love the view of the train just running on the street through the town. Of course, the real life equivalent that I've taken some references from is cool on the Rosa line. And now an NPC is going through my train, but the Sims can't die here. And I don't know, this is just a bit therapeutic for me. Very calming. Oh. I could watch these trains run here for hours, to be honest. And now I'm noticing the catenaries on the road, which of course isn't nice. That's why now I'm going to correct that. There are obviously options for me with the tracks where the catenary, like the poles aren't there, but the catenary itself is still there, so that I can plop down the poles myself. As you can see, there is a mod that has plenty of options of Swiss catenary poles. And now I'm just plopping them down on the road. A little bit of more fencing. Just keep everything secure. And now the last bits of housing. Just to fulfill the grid. And that is it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.